everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that'll really get you thinking. We're going to be taking a look at sophistry.
Sophistry?
Yeah, and to do that, we're going to be looking at Plato's Euthydemus dialogue.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating stuff because it shows how these ancient debaters, really these masters of rhetoric, used language as like a weapon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They were like verbal niches.
Exactly. They could twist and turn words to win arguments, even if their arguments were completely bogus.
Right. It's like they were playing a game,
Yeah.
and the game was to win at all costs.
Totally.
Suffering ham.
Truth didn't even matter.
Yeah.
And so in the Euthydemus dialogue, we see Socrates kind of going up against these two sophists,
Right.
Euthydemus and Dionysiodorus, and he kind of gets sucked into their game for a while.
He does. He gets drawn in by their cleverness.
And I think what's so interesting is that initially Socrates has some admiration for them.
Right. He sees them as these authorities.
Yeah.
You know, they've mastered warfare, they've mastered law,
Yeah.
and they even claim that they can teach virtue.
They say they can teach it better and faster than anyone else.
Better and faster than anyone else.
Which is a pretty audacious claim when you think about it.
It is.
Like, can you really teach virtue? Like,
Right.
teach someone to bake a cake or something?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Is virtue something you can just learn like a skill?
Exactly. And so Socrates is intrigued by this, and he wants to see how they do it. So they decide to kind of use this young guy, Clinus, as their test subject.
Yeah, they're guinea pig.
Yeah, their verbal punching bag.
Exactly.
So Euthydemus starts off by asking Clinus this seemingly simple question.
Yeah, it seems innocent enough.
He says, are those who learn the wise or the ignorant?
Ooh, sneaky.
It sounds like a pretty straightforward question, right?
Sure.
But it's actually a trap.
Oh, absolutely a trap.
It's a classic example of a false dilemma.
Yeah.
Where they present you with only two options.
Right.
When in reality, there might be many other possibilities.
Exactly. And either answer you give, it's going to lead you into a corner
Yeah.
where they can make you look foolish.
So poor Clinus, he falls right into the trap.
He does.
He says that those who learn are the wise.
Oh.
And then Euthydemus pounces on that and says, well, if they're still learning, that means they must still be lacking knowledge.
Right.
Therefore, they must be ignorant.
It's like a word game.
Exactly. It's all about how you define wise.
Yeah, they shift the definition in the middle of the argument
Yeah.
to make it seem like Clinus is contradicting himself.
Right. So they're using this language ambiguity to create this illusion of the contradiction.
Exactly.
Even though Clinus might not actually be contradicting himself at all.
Right. It's just verbal trickery.
And this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Euthydemus keeps going. He hits Clinus with another one of these tricky questions.
Oh, boy.
He says, do those who learn what they know or what they do not know?
Another seemingly simple question with
Yeah.
a hidden barb.
And now Dionysiodorus, who's the other sophist, chimes in. He's like practically giddy with excitement.
He's loving it.
He's like, oh yeah, this is how we do it.
He knows exactly what his brother's up to.
Yeah.
He's enjoying this display.
So Clinus, now he's thoroughly flustered.
Poor Clinus.
He's like, I guess people learn what they don't know.
Yeah.
And of course, the sophists use this to twist the argument even further.
Right.
And make it seem like he's contradicting himself again.
It's like watching a chess game
Yeah.
where they're just setting him up for checkmate.
Exactly. It's like every move they make boxes Clinus in further and further until he has nowhere to go.
They leave him with no escape.
And what's so interesting to me is how they're exploiting the very act of learning itself.
Right.
It's like they're taking this pursuit of knowledge and turning it into a weapon.
Yeah, it's unsettling, isn't it?
It's a bit unsettling, yeah.
Because it's like they're saying that learning is not about
Right.
actually discovering truth.
It's about
It's about winning.
Yeah.
It's about dominating your opponent.
Yeah.
And that's a very different view of education than what Socrates is all about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Socrates, being the sharp observer that he is, he tries to kind of lighten the mood a bit. He compares their intense questioning style to like these wild dances of the Corybantes, who were these ancient priests known for their like crazy rituals.
Their ecstatic rituals where they would like whirl around and bang drums and just go into these frenzies.
He's basically saying like, hey guys, this is all a bit much.
Right.
You're treating this poor kid like he's in some kind of crazy ritual.
He's trying to point out that it's a performance.
Yeah.
It's a game they're playing.
But I think Socrates is also starting to see through their facade a bit.
He's getting suspicious.
He's starting to realize that this isn't just harmless intellectual sparring.
Yeah.
There's something more calculated,
agenda.
more manipulative going on here.
Definitely.
And that's where we're going to pick up in part 2.
Okay.
We're going to delve even deeper into the sophists' philosophy
Yeah.
and see how they use language as a tool of power, not truth.
I can't wait.
So stay tuned because things are about to get really interesting.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, so we left off with Socrates starting to see through the sophists' little game.
Yeah, their facade is starting to crack.
And now things get even more interesting because Dionysiodorus, he makes this really bold claim.
Oh, yeah?
He says that falsehood doesn't even exist.
Whoa, hold on.
I know, right?
How could falsehood not exist?
It seems crazy.
It seems like we experience falsehood all the time.
Yeah, I mean, people lie.
Right.
People make mistakes. We see it every day.
So how can he say that?
Well, Dionysiodorus, his argument is that you can only say what's true.
Okay.
Or you can say nothing at all.
All right.
So any statement that's false is
Yeah.
basically just nonsense.
So it's not even a real statement.
It's just like gibberish.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Socrates, obviously, he's not going to let that slide.
Of course not.
He challenges Dionysiodorus on this.
Uh-huh.
He says, okay, but what about thinking falsely?
Right.
Can you not have a false opinion or a false belief?
That's a good point.
And Dionysiodorus, he doesn't back down.
No, he doubles down.
He insists that even false opinions, even ignorance itself, are impossible.
So if we follow his logic, everyone's already omniscient.
Right, everyone already knows everything.
They have nothing left to learn.
Exactly.
Which seems to kind of defeat the purpose of philosophy.
Well, that's exactly what Socrates points out. He's like,
Right.
wait a minute, if nobody can be wrong,
Right.
then what's the point of learning or debating anything?
If there's no such thing as falsehood,
Right.
then there's no need to search for truth.
It's like they're saying that the whole pursuit of knowledge is pointless.
Which is kind of ironic coming from people who claim to be teachers.
Yeah, I mean, they claim to be able to teach you anything, but then their own philosophy undermines the very idea of learning.
A bit of a paradox.
So at this point, Socrates, he decides to change tactics.
Okay.
Instead of trying to argue with them on a philosophical level,
Uh-huh.
he starts asking them all these seemingly ridiculous questions.
Like what?
Like he asks them if they know how to cobble shoes.
Cobbling shoes?
Yeah, if they know how to stitch clothes, if they know how to dance.
All right.
He's basically poking fun at their claim to know everything.
He's testing their omniscience.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is that the sophists, they go along with it.
Really?
They actually maintain that they possess all these skills.
No matter how ridiculous they sound.
Yeah, no matter how trivial or mundane.
So they're really committed to this idea of knowing everything.
Yeah, it's like they've painted themselves into a corner.
Right.
With their own rhetoric.
They have to keep making these absurd claims to stay consistent.
And so Socrates keeps pushing it.
Yeah.
He starts asking them about things like the number of stars in the sky.
Oh, boy.
Or the number of grains of sand on the beach.
Wow, he's really up in the ante.
And of course they claim to know it all.
Of course.
And this is where we really see the danger of rhetoric divorced from reality.
Right.
Their arguments might sound impressive on the surface,
Yeah.
but they have no connection to actual knowledge or evidence.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Exactly.
It's style over substance.
And now at this point, Clinus's friend Ctesippus, he joins the party.
Oh, this is going to be good.
He's had enough of the sophists' antics,
Yeah.
and he's not afraid to call them out.
So he challenges them.
Yeah, he demands that they put their money where their mouth is.
I like this guy.
He's like, all right, you claim to know everything.
Uh-huh.
So tell me how many teeth Euthydemus has.
Oh, he's calling their bluff.
Exactly. He's demanding concrete proof.
Right.
He wants them to back up their grand claims with something observable.
Something measurable.
But of course, the sophists, they refuse to play his game.
They're not going to give him the satisfaction.
Nope. They just keep repeating their mantra, we know all things.
It's a circular argument.
Yeah, it's designed to shut down any real inquiry.
They're not interested in actually proving anything.
And Ctesippus, he's not giving up.
No, he's persistent.
He starts throwing out all these increasingly ridiculous questions.
Like what kind of questions?
Like he asks them if they know the most vulgar and obscene things imaginable.
Oh, wow, he's really pushing the boundaries.
He's using humor and shock value to expose the absurdity of their claims.
He's basically saying if you really know everything,
Right.
then knowing the most trivial or disgusting thing shouldn't be a big deal.
And for the whole dialogue kind of descends into this chaotic back and forth.
It's like a verbal brawl.
Yeah, with the sophists clinging to their we know everything stance and Ctesippus just trying to break through their rhetorical defenses.
It must have been quite a spectacle.
Oh, I'm sure it was entertaining, but
Yeah.
also kind of unsettling.
Right, because it raises these questions about the limits of language.
Yeah.
And the dangers of unchecked power.
It makes you think about how easily we can be manipulated by words.
Exactly.
And then, in a surprising twist, Socrates decides to throw in the towel.
He gives up.
Well, not exactly. He decides to play their game.
Oh,
He
interesting.
starts claiming that he too knows everything.
He's going to beat them at their own game.
And he even goes so far as to say that he knows that good people are unjust.
Wait, what? That doesn't even make sense.
I know, right?
How can good people be unjust?
Well, that's exactly the point.
Oh, I think.
By embracing their logic,
Uh-huh.
Socrates is exposing the emptiness of their claims.
He's showing that if words have no fixed meaning,
Right.
then you can make them say any.
Even something completely absurd.
So he's turning their own weapons against them.
Exactly.
It's a brilliant move.
And it highlights the danger of letting rhetoric triumph over reason.
So it's like he's saying, okay, if this is how we're playing, then I can win too, but look how ridiculous we all sound.
Yeah, he's showing that their game is ultimately meaningless.
It's a powerful message.
And it raises this really profound question.
What's that?
Can language actually distort our understanding of reality?
That's a deep one.
Can we be manipulated into believing things that are clearly false?
And that's a question that's still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we see this all the time in
Right.
propaganda and advertising.
In political discourse.
Everywhere.
So Plato, through this dialogue, is warning us about the power of words to deceive.
Right.
And the importance of developing critical thinking skills.
Yeah, we need to be able to see through these deceptions.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about in part 3.
Right.
We're going to explore how to recognize and counter these sophist tactics in our own lives.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so we've seen how these sophists operate.
Yeah, they're like verbal acrobats.
Really impressive, but
Yeah.
ultimately their arguments are kind of empty.
Right, it's all style over substance.
Like they're playing this game with language.
Yeah.
Detached from reality.
It makes you wonder, how do we protect ourselves from this kind of manipulation?
Right, because it feels like something we still encounter all the time.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
So what can we do about it?
Well, luckily, Plato gives us some tools.
Okay.
He shows us how important critical thinking is.
Right.
Questioning assumptions.
Yeah.
Demanding evidence.
Not just taking things at face value.
Exactly. We can't just be swayed by what sounds clever or persuasive.
We have to dig deeper.
Yeah, look for the logic behind the arguments.
Examine the motives.
Right, because sometimes people use rhetoric to hide their true intentions.
It's like that saying.
What's that?
Don't believe everything you think.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
We have to be critical of our own thoughts, too.
Yeah, because we can all be fooled by our own biases.
Absolutely. And that's what's so dangerous about sophistry.
It can distort our understanding of truth and justice.
It can even make us question our own values.
And that's why Plato's Euthydemus is such a powerful warning.
Right.
It shows us what can happen when rhetoric runs amok.
Yeah, when we prioritize winning over truth.
So how do we apply these lessons in our own lives?
Well, think about all the information we encounter every day.
Right.
The news, the ads, the conversations we have.
Yeah.
Are we really engaging with the ideas, or are we just letting ourselves be swept away by the rhetoric?
That's a great point.
We need to be more discerning consumers of information.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, first we need to ask ourselves, who's speaking?
Yeah.
What's their agenda?
Right.
What evidence do they have?
Don't just take things at face value.
Exactly. Be skeptical.
Be a critical thinker.
Look for logical fallacies, emotional manipulation.
Attempts to shut down debate.
Like becoming a detective of language.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, we got to look for the clues.
Analyze the evidence.
And draw our own conclusions based on reason.
And this isn't just about being passive observers.
Right.
We need to be better communicators ourselves.
Yeah, when we argue, are we trying to win or are we trying to find the truth?
That's a tough question.
It is.
But it's an important one.
Because if we're not careful, we can become like the sophists ourselves.
Using language to manipulate and control.
Rather than to understand and connect.
So Plato's Euthydemus is a timeless lesson.
It's a call to be more mindful of our words.
And more thoughtful in our communication.
To value truth above all else.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into sophistry, remember, don't be dazzled by clever arguments.
Don't be swayed by rhetoric.
Engage your critical thinking skills.
Demand evidence.
And always strive for genuine dialogue.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep diving deep and keep thinking critically.